Medical disclaimer. Please note that the information shared on this podcast is for educational and informational purposes only and should not be considered medical advice. Always consult with your healthcare provider before making any changes to your health regimen, including starting new therapies, supplements, or treatments. While we discuss cutting-edge research and advancements in cellular medicine, individual health needs vary and professional guidance is essential. By listening to this podcast, you acknowledge that neither Dr. Seeds nor the podcast team is providing personalized medical recommendations.
On today's episode of Redox Revolution, have I changed my thoughts on NAD? Come and listen. Welcome back to another episode of Redox Revolution, and I'm here with Matt and Maddie, and we have a special guest today that, Matthew, we're going to let you introduce and take it from here.
So today we've got Damien Hancox. He is an accomplished pharma industry operator and commercial leader known for building high-performing teams and turning complex healthcare problems into scalable, metric-based outcomes. As the CEO of Spectrum X, he played a pivotal role in accelerating the company's growth, including identifying the commercial opportunities in the specials market. Spectrum X are now one of the largest output specials manufacturers in the UK. With deep experience across the pharmaceutical ecosystem, Damien's worked closely with stakeholders spanning manufacturers, distributors, and healthcare providers with a focus on improving access, affordability, and patient outcomes. Hey, something we say all the time.
I like that.
He brings a pragmatic, data-driven approach to leadership, combining market insights with disciplined execution to deliver results in highly regulated environments. Damien is valued for his ability to align cross-functional teams, convert multifaceted challenges into scalable business solutions, and build trusted partnerships, consistently driving momentum from early-stage opportunity through to sustained impact. And might I also say, very tall in person.
Well, thank you very much for having me, guys. A real pleasure to be here. Look forward to our discussion today.
It's always fun when we got people who are, taking their time to come in here with us when they're already globe-trotting. You were recently in Dubai, right? You were recently in Dubai. Did you guys cross paths? You get to wave at each other in the airport,
at some point, yes. But yeah, that's part of my job. Unfortunately, is attending global conferences, often not next door to the UK. So I'm sure the doc is also a weary worldwide traveler.
Yeah, we probably both got our circadian clocks are probably in different places, but we got the same effect from the same type of travel. But no, I didn't see him over there. Did you see him, Maddie?
I didn't see you over there either.
No, I was pretty busy. Well, exactly.
But
easy to miss.
It's the right time of year to be there, right? Because the weather is perfect.
Yeah, exactly. Not too hot, not too cold.
No, it's just perfect.
You're not being smacked
in
the face.
I won't be going back
by
in August, I can assure you.
That's no fun.
Yeah, that was the only time we've been there.
Okay.
The 2 times we went before this time. Wow, big difference.
Yeah. Well, today's episode, we're doing a little bit of a continuation on where we were all the way back in episode 16 with the importance of NAD. What happens when it decreases with age, and something that you've been working on recently is a new form of NAD supplementation. If you want to kind of tell us a little bit about it.
Absolutely. So obviously we're a drug development and sterile injectable manufacturer based in the UK. And about 18 months ago, we started to take a really close look at the longevity wellness space. And what we discovered was that a lot of these so-called wonder drugs, things like NAD+, are not being prescribed at the level you would expect them to be. And one of the real reasons for that is prescribers' hesitancy because of manufacturing quality and understanding what it is that they're able to prescribe to their patients. So as a company, what we did is we went back to zero, and we started this project as we would any other drug development program. So started with our formulation chemistry team, moving on to our manufacturing and production team, and finally with our quality team, everything from validating test results and test methodology, trying different formulations, a full normal drug. So we've treated this as we would any of our other drug programs. And I think that is the critical difference where we believe we've got the perfect drug grade formulation for NAD, which allows doctors to have confidence in prescribing, in dosing. And what we did after that was look at a way to make it more patient friendly. So, in the United States, most of these products come from compounding pharmacies. A lot of times it's freeze-dried drugs, which requires patients to reconstitute. So that's, drawing bacteriostatic or saline, reconstituting with an insulin needle. So you end up with potentially varying effects because it's either being misdosed or misdiluted, etc. So we try to make it as patient-friendly as possible, which would, again, increase the confidence of the prescriber in giving the product. So we've partnered with Medivive here for the launch in the United States, and the product is available in a single-use injection pen for the first time. The pen is intended for 1 month's use, depending on obviously the prescriber's dosing protocol. And we think that adherence to that prescribing protocol is heightened by the fact that it's super easy for the patient to use, building on the Mounjaro or GLP-1 Wegovy model, where
people are really familiar with the pens now.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it's something which that sort of. That paved the way to bring other drugs like NAD, which are hugely beneficial to patients in a format they're used to. It's easy, you leave it in your fridge. You have your daily or every 3 days, whatever the protocol is. And although in the United States we've partnered with a compounding pharmacy, they follow all of our tech, if you like. So about 12 to 18 months of drug development in the UK at a full drugs. We are not a compounding manufacturer. We're a drug manufacturer. So it's that that sort of gold standard of approach that we've taken.
From the clinical side, you're talking about quality and you're talking about provider confidence. So, Doc, why is that something that has not necessarily been readily available in this space?
Well, I think the focus. Why I believe this is so important from our perspective of representing the providers and the patients is that this NAD craze is already here. It's out of control, and everybody's focused on the possibilities of anti-aging and longevity and all of this.
Your favorite words?
All of these unproven things with something like NAD. Yet NAD in how we discuss NAD as a redox indicator and as a very important part of specific enzymes involved in maintaining redox and addressing, adapting to stress in the cell and DNA changes and so forth. We're getting better at understanding the ability to work within the cell to manipulate or to help the cell work with producing its own NAD, but also working on understanding how can we look at the appropriate biomarkers that tell us that we're doing anything well with NAD, right? So what Damien and his group brings that we have not had is the bigger elephant in the room, and that's the safety of using something like this that is being used, in my opinion, in the wrong ways, and used in high doses and used where there's really no focus on what a real a drug is, as far as being and being confident in the safety of the endotoxins, the stability, the sterility, the CAQs, the ability to continue and follow something if there are some adverse effects. I mean, that's just not here. And you this is somebody's thinking about this in the right way of, hey, I want confidence. I've not had confidence in anything that's been out there. I wouldn't touch it. I have some confidence now that there's a way, because there are certainly great ways to use NAD potentially in short-term basis is while you're working on improving cell redox. You've got an excellent way to potentially work on improving redox exogenously while you're working on it endogenously. We've just never had anything, and somebody's taken a responsible approach to do something appropriate to protect my patients, protect the physicians and the healthcare providers doing this, because they believe in something that's out there is right, and it's not right. And in fact, and I'll stop talking because I could go on and on about this. You know, the FDA, they came out with that a paper here in just this year, last year, finally looking at this and stating and talking about all the endotoxin issues with the current NAD that's out there, which is just, if you read this, you go, well, what the hell is everybody doing?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, our primary focus and my primary focus as CEO of Spectrum X is patient safety, and no more so when you're talking about, route of administration being injection, so the highest risk route of administration. And what we find interesting is the regulatory bar that we follow is so much higher than it is, for example, for a 503A or a 503B compounding pharmacy. The types of warning letters I see go out to these organizations, I mean, just would not be tolerated. It would never happen, under our regulatory umbrella, under the guidance of my quality team, etc. But yeah, as I said, from a doctor's perspective, you have to be extremely comfortable that what you're prescribing is not only, well, first of all, safe, but is actually then efficacious. Because otherwise, what you're indicating it for and what you're prescribing it for, if you're not sure that what you're prescribing is what you intend to prescribe, you're not going to see the benefits. You're not going to see the positive effects that you want to see, and that's why the reason you prescribe to your patient to begin with.
Yeah, and there's so many. I mean, the fact that you have this in an auto injector to maintain. Our interest in moving forward with following this process where you have something that's reliable, you have something that meets higher standards than what could be done here in the U.S. Currently. You have a way of reproducing the treatment protocols that everyone should be following. And what does that give you? That gives you evidence and data that we really need to be validating these statements we make about cognition and other things that are important. It's not about increasing NAD in the blood. That means nothing. It's what's it doing in the cell, what's it doing in the mitochondria, so forth. But now you have a way to better standardize that and keep people out of trouble.
Yeah, you've got a baseline you can work from, right? Whereas, otherwise, if you've got a baseline that's constantly moving, you don't actually know what benefits the patient's getting, if any.
Absolutely not.
You have a constant product that's the same across the board, meeting the same standards. You don't need to guess like the purity or sterility of different compounds.
If I'm a consumer, exactly. If I'm a consumer out there, if I'm a physician and I'm listening to this, why would I go anywhere else? I mean, I've got something that we're not demanding here, which I've always talked about and said, what are we doing? And finally, someone's come to the table, and that's where I think it has to be really emphasized. This is a discussion on safety, and we do not spend enough time in looking at that, and I'll use some examples of when I hear doctors come and talk to me about using NAD, and they know I have my opinions about this, and they'll never change.
You have opinions?
Yes, and they're talking about, I think we did, that the patient had this response, and I won't go into the details. And I'm in my head, I'm like, that's an endotoxin response. Like, what the hell? This isn't a stimulatory response. That's an endotoxin response. And I don't think people understand that. And the other thing, actually, while I'm thinking about this, can you talk a little bit about about your auto injector? That this isn't like other people who may do it, inject it into the injector. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Oh, you in terms of the manufacturing process itself?
Yeah,
Yeah. So again, the most common medicine to be filled and used in a pen, other than GLP-1s, obviously now traditionally was always insulin. Right. So insulin is obviously a mass production scale drug, and what we've done is adopted what's been done by Big Pharma, if you like, for many, many years in terms of the manufacturing process of ensuring precise dosing. So, the product comes in a pre-sterilized, endotoxin-free vial, cartridge vial. It's then filled under vacuum. So essentially, after filling precise in this instance 3 milliliters, the rest of the air is vacuumed out, and the plunger is in contact directly with the medicine. Then obviously we've got a medical grade drug delivery system in the pen. So it's really, really precise dosing. So you can have anything from 3 milligrams of NAD up to 200 in one administration, depending on obviously the physician's protocol. But again, this precise dosing and the ability to step up and have a different titration program is something which, a patient having to dilute their own drug and then having to draw it in an insulin syringe, it's not a very common or well understood route of administration for a normal patient. It's quite an unusual thing. It's normally doctors and nurses who are applying the syringes, whereas this, again, following on from the GLP-1 model, makes it super easy to comply with the protocol or the prescription you've been given by your doctor, and just, again, have that baseline where you say, right, I was here. This is how I've started. This is how I've progressed. Obviously there's a lot of biomarkers and things that you as a doc can look at and, have some confidence that, yes, this is working. This is helping my patient.
Absolutely.
So could you describe some of the positive outcomes that you've already started to see, whether that is in the UK or whether that is in some of the studies based on this new delivery method?
So what we see in terms of adherence to the protocol is previously we were also manufacturing in vials in the previous, as I mentioned, always a finished product, so no dilution required. But we were seeing retention rates of around 40%. Since we've moved into the auto-injector pen, those are more like 85%. So it's significant. So what we're seeing is that the easier you make it for the patients, the more likely they are to stick to it. This obviously the product comes with a travel case with cool bags. So we have a lot of patients and customers in the UK who travel a lot and want to make. If you as soon as you drop off from your routine, it's either difficult to get back to it, or you see fundamental changes in the benefits because you've got these sort of peaks and troughs rather than that consistency. So from our perspective, we've seen the feedback we have from customers and from patients is that they love the ease of use. Obviously, there's many benefits. Doc's much better to speak in terms of the physical benefits, but we have patients and customers stating they sleep much better, they've got much better mental clarity, better energy levels. I mean, on a very, very basic level, I mean, NAD helps, is what turns food into energy within your body on a very, very basic. I'm sorry, that's probably too lowbrow for this show, but that's in essence what it does.
I wonder what the levers at play are for why the regulatory environment was so much more strict and why the UK really was the test lab where this could come from, right? And how is it that you've been able to get it over here to the US?
So as I said, we're a drug manufacturer. We're not a compounding pharmacy, and the two are dramatically different. We're trusted by the MHRA, which is the FDA equivalent, to make mass scale drugs. And I think we're probably the largest organization that started to look at some of these wellness longevity products. We've got quite a pipeline of other products coming down the road. But we're traditionally where you're talking about very small pharmacies making this stuff, and again, not following GMP, good manufacturing practice. As Doc mentioned, perhaps questionable testing data, if testing takes place at all. So we've just really raised the bar. And then we found a reliable partner here in the US who is an FDA-registered site, but also a 503B, who meet our standards. So that was a rigorous due diligence process to find someone we were comfortable giving the technology transfer to. And they've done a great job, and they're supporting us with Mediviv in launching the product to the US.
And then they can dispense to the 503As.
Yes, correct. Exactly.
And that's the way the physician can write the prescription and feel, okay, I've gone through all the steps to protect myself, my patients.
Yeah, because that's what all of our docs here are familiar with, is the 503A route.
Yeah, exactly. So so the platform setup is also backed by a technology platform setup. So it's super straightforward for the doctors to register themselves on the platform, then upload their patients. They can put in auto refills so that every month the patient receives a new pen and follows the same dosing protocol. Everything gets dispensed from a 503A. So the doctor uploads his patient's data, uploads the prescription. And then basically gets order fulfilled from a 503A, which can ship to about 45 states, I think, at the moment. So almost total US coverage.
And it needs to be via prescription. Patients can't
Absolutely,
go
yes.
and
This is an injection, guys. We're talking about very high risk route of administration, and as worst case, you end up with something like a sepsis or something really serious happen when the proper care and attention is not given to the fact that you're manufacturing a pharmaceutical product.
Up to date, since you haven't had a reliable source of this that you've loved, what are some of the ways that you've worked around that, and why is having something like this in your back pocket now advantageous for patients?
Well, oh, gosh, that's a huge question.
Stumped him.
No. Well, we've looked. So again,
basically, what have you been doing for the past couple of years, and why is it advantageous now to have this new weapon in your tool belt?
So I've never, this was something that I introduced subcutaneous NAD many years ago, as some of the older physicians will remember, in potentially being a way to work on a short-term basis to do the work where the NAD system, the redox system was compromised, meaning redox balance was off, and we're going to be working on improving the NAD salvage pathway. We're trying to get consumption of NAD to match recycling and synthesis, basically, which overall will help this redox process in a cell. So sub-Q NAD at the time was a solution to help with to be a temporary measure of giving a source while we're working to improve that salvage pathway or do the things we need to make that redox environment better, or to from that standpoint. And I don't want to get too detailed in that, but does that make sense what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, obviously the age plays a huge factor into NAD production. After the age of about 40, you're roughly at half the levels of your peak, which is around, 20 or 22 years old. Doc, you all know better than me from that perspective. But yeah, absolutely, encouraging natural generation within the body, but there's obviously limitations. Some of those are related to the age of the patient.
Yeah, and we found at the time it was very difficult as we were looking at sourcing and so forth to absolutely get reproducible, what we felt was a drug level NAD product, and it just never was there. It didn't happen. And so then you started to see these precursors starting to come out, like the
NMN,
nicotinamide riboside, nicotinamide, NMN, and nicotinic acid being used. Things like this that were another way to potentially, again, increase NAD, but here's the whole dilemma here. You can't really measure anything. By measuring NAD in the blood means absolutely nothing because it doesn't reflect what's in the cell, okay? Sorry, everyone. That's just the way it is. And you can't argue with me with that because I'm right. And the
Spicy.
And the problem there, the problem with these precursors, and why I'm going to go back to why NAD is probably way better if you use it right, is that the precursors can do some things to increase something that we don't. They can do some things to work in a way that will absolutely can further change like methylation pools and things that we don't want. And people don't pay attention to that. And there's all these other things that can happen. But that's kind of where we were. And we've been doing, I think, a fantastic job of working on redox and working on this. And again, NAD, you have to look at it in two different ways. NAD is you can't look at it as NAD. You got to look at it as a ratio of NAD to NADH because it's used as a redox indicator to how well you're transferring electrons through glycolysis, through the Krebs cycle, and through oxidative phosphorylation. It's, are you meeting these demands appropriately in the cell? That's what that ratio tells you. That's something, that's one part of the NAD story. The other is how NAD is consumed. Because NAD is not consumed in those processes, but it's consumed more or less in when we have demands on the cell to repair, which are all about the sirtuin proteins.
And every cell is different, correct? Every cell with the quantity of NAD it needs.
Correct.
Is different.
All tremendously different, and different in the mitochondria, different in the nucleus, different in the cytoplasm, different in the peroxisome, different in the Golgi body. I mean, it's all different, okay? So again, that's where this measuring thing of measuring in the blood is just complete bullshit. But the concept of understanding that NAD is consumed for these SIRT proteins to help with repair. And then there's this other issue of DNA damage that's constantly occurring where NAD is a very vital part also, and that's where it's consumed. Now, where it gets into this place of aging and then disease processes, that comes in play with the immune system where we have these other receptors, right?
The CD38.
The CD38 receptors that are like this sink of, they get priority to NAD and they can consume, as you age, you increase your inflammatory burden. With disease, you increase your inflammatory burden. With cancer, you increase your inflammatory burden. So that gets first choice on any NAD that's available. So that's why you got to be really careful when you're using these things, because you can feed cancer, you can feed senescence, you can feed in immune cells that you don't want activated. So you got to be really smart in understanding this lay of the land. And so that just brings me back to finally we've got this safety issue, I believe, solved, which I think is just amazing because we couldn't have done it here in the U.S. And we've got now the ability to move forward again to be integrating this the right way.
Safe way.
Not through mega doses of IVs, but in a manner subcutaneously, intermittently, low dosing that can really make a difference while you're working on fixing some of these mechanisms of NAD. So does that make sense? I mean, I've spent days talking about this stuff.
Yeah, I mean, everything in cellular medicine is a little bit of a give and take, right? Because when you only have so many things available to you, you got to basically pick, like, okay, if none of these are perfect, what is still our best option? And if all the previous NAD routes of supplementation have been basically tainted with these endotoxins you're talking about, then the better route has been these precursors, which you've been teaching on for years. But I mean, now if we have this available to us, what you're saying is you can avoid some of the downfalls of some of these precursors that you've had to be a little bit careful of by now using something like this. And one of the things that I know we love of what you guys have done, you were talking about being able to low dose, and you've been talking about how important it is to be working with the provider as a patient. So that ability to kind of scale up and down based on what your prescription level the provider's telling you need to use, that's huge with this.
Yeah, titration programs are critical, obviously, for many drugs, but none more so perhaps than NAD plus, and the ability to have a actual proper titration program developed with your physician, and then be able to adhere to it with precise dosing. It's from the pen itself.
Because if you don't mind me saying it, that's the biggest downfall we see when people come out with a good product is from the manufacturing level. They almost start setting the dosage instead of just kind of giving the tool to the provider and saying, work with your patient. And so you see a lot of these come out and people are trying to just get pumped with it.
I'm not a doctor. That's not my place. So my priority is patient safety, make an efficacious product, and then it's down to the doctors and the patients to consult and then put together the right outcome for the patient. I said we give the tools, and doc uses the tools. That's the way it should be.
That's always your biggest gripe is when any of these things come, whatever it is, right? Like previously very recently we've talked about whether it's the hyperbaric chambers or the red light therapy or, NAD pens. You get something that comes out that has a use case that can be beneficial, but then when it just gets supercharged to the moon for, hey, this is the new longevity thing and everyone just needs to be doing it to 1,000, that's when you start to get frustrated. So what is having something that is completely efficable? What is the path forward here? I know you kind of started to wrap it up in your last little bit, but what is the take-home message here?
The take-home message is very straightforward and clear: is safety and sterility, and I want no endotoxins. I mean, I want. I'm sorry. I mean, you've got it. I can't say enough about having those issues that that they have to deal with to make the product.
Yeah.
We're not we don't have those demands here, and people are using product that I'm sorry, I would never entertain using. And now I have the ability to come back to looking again at where I feel this is, and look, this is all theoretical, okay? I mean, I can have anybody argue with me on why they may do it differently, and this is no poop on the precursors either. I mean, there's even more validation with the precursors because there's some good research out there that has already been produced on some of these precursors, but there are metabolites and things they're looking at they don't validate anything that's happening in the cell. We just haven't done that yet, and clinically. And then I think we all have our opinions. I have my opinions on why we run into issues. And I'm only saying that also because I'm out there practicing. I'm doing it every day. I'm not out there just lecturing and saying that this should be this way and that way because I've read a paper. I'm out there fucking doing this stuff, and it's very hard. It's very difficult. No patient is the same. It's hard to take care of people well. Now I have another little tool that I believe can be useful when I'm trying to get some momentum for this patient where they're not in a great place. I know their redox balance is off, and I can offer them something finally where I feel good about something while I'm working behind the scenes to make that cell take care of itself and not do these things that people are doing where they're actually turning off the cell wanting to make its own NAD because they're just flooding it or they're doing other things. And again, these are my opinions. Please come listen to us talk. Listen to what I try to discuss with my research and with what's out there. yes, I'm opinionated, but
No.
but I'm also validating things with real patient care because it's tough. And what's great here is now we can move forward and get some great clinical data. This is what I want. I want, evidence-based medicine is where everything is going in making and helping us make further strides in this world of health span improvement and so forth. So my hat's off to some people doing it right, and that we can offer that. And I just hope other providers and patients that are listening to this, hey, ask your provider to look at this and have them explain to you why they wouldn't do this versus anything else.
Our patients are going to be asking you
Well,
now.
it's common. It's like, hey,
They're going to be like, what?
If you present, yeah, exactly. And if you present information, anybody can learn just as much as you can. All right. And I'm not smart, but I use my common sense. And if I can give you the information, what decision are you going to make? You're going to say, "Oh my gosh, I want safety."
I don't mean to inflate your ego, but you are smart. I'll give you that.
I'm already looking forward to. I know you've been listening to Doc for a while now,
Indeed,
but I'm
yeah.
already waiting for the outreach of people being like, he's hated NAD forever. And it's like, well, this is why I love doing
listen to the
episodes like
podcast.
this. But also, if you go back and listen to a lot of those lectures or a lot of the things he was saying, again, there's levels to this. There's nuance to this. So with a lot of these things being corrected now, it's not that you're allowed to change your opinion. It's that if the issue's been resolved, then we can actually move forward.
We've moved the goalpost, so you can move forward your thought process on the molecule itself.
I got one more question real quick before we wrap up, and I actually kind of want to pose this to both of you guys. Since a lot of our conversation from the Educational Institute in the past has had to revolve around the precursors because it's been the best option for us, a lot of that conversation has also started to include a lot of the ways in which you can naturally start to upregulate NAD. I mean, whether it's the caloric restriction, the sunlight exposure, things like supplementing with ketone esters, certain dietary factors, even other peptides, you name it, right? Now, using an actual NAD pen in conjunction with some of those things, how does that either change the conversation? How does that change the levels in which you start to rely on some of those things, you don't rely on those things? Because again, a lot of those have focused on building those in with the precursors, and now we're actually building it in with the real pen. So how does that conversation change, if it does at all?
I mean, from my perspective, I think obviously there's a lot of things like oxidative stress, which obviously depress NAD levels, and hopefully, if you can start to supplement it with a genuine drug grade product, that over time patients will start to replicate and start to produce more NAD naturally and start to reduce dosing protocol using this product. But if you can't get to that stage where you can actually encourage the body and the cells to start improving and increasing their own NAD generation, then you're never going to get to that point.
Can I just point something out real quick? And it sounds obvious, but the answer you just gave is that patients can start to build their cellular processes up so that they can take less of your product. And I think that's pretty cool to hear you say that.
Whether they do that or not.
Yeah. No, but that's, I think
You don't
that's
hear
just
that often.
That's just a good call out
Yeah.
to say, like, listen to somebody actually talking about it responsibly. So I appreciate that. But yeah.
Well, this can go really far in. So all the things you just discussed are, again, they're context dependent. You have to be careful with. I mean, let me just point out a couple things.
Yeah.
Like saying, it's touted out there that sunlight, being in the sun is going to improve your NAD. Well, we know in an adipocyte that using vitamin D has been shown to increase NAD in an adipocyte.
Just for the listeners who might not know what an adipocyte is.
Fat cell.
Thank you.
And we're translating that and extrapolating that into, if you get sunlight, you're good because you make vitamin D, then you're going to produce NAD in the cell. And is that true? We don't know yet. But I believe it is true. I mean, there are mechanisms that just, and we talk about this in the past, molecular pathways don't really ever lie. I mean, they're pretty consistent. So all I'm saying here is a lot of the things you said with ketone esters, exercise, it's all context dependent, and we have to. But the rationale with and calorie restriction, again. The rationale here is that, yes, it's working on improving the mechanisms of the cell being able to, again, adapt and create the environment of where it improves that redox ratio, which he's referred to as oxidative stress that works against the ratio. So yes, it's always what can we do to make that system better, and that's what we're all about in cellular medicine. Now, what's really intriguing and very interesting now that we've got something like this that's real, and now we can feel more confident in measuring and following the evidence on this with a safe product, is now we can do things where, like, you have an athlete, let's say that it is overtraining. Well, we know that athlete, and this is where it can be really important, where an athlete is overtraining and they've impacted their redox. Well, these are ways that, you know, things that can be diagnostic and therapeutic at the same time by low dosing and doing some things with NAD can give you some insight into that athlete. I mean, this opens the door to some really amazing potential things you can do while you're trying to fix that person. I mean, it's things that I have not been able to do for a very long time.
Can get their brain buy-in quicker potentially too.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. So I think it's exciting. I think it'll open up a tremendous amount of debate, and which I'm looking forward to.
We're just going to forward
King
you
of
every
controversy.
email.
Which I'm looking forward to. We're going to forward every email to him.
Every email we get, we'll forward it to him. Yeah.
But
It'll never get answered.
I know.
But hey, you know what? The beauty of something is when people talk about it, and
They'll be talking.
and we can all continue to learn, right? And we can all get better at what we're doing, and so I'm really excited that because I think this is the beginning. Like I know what you're already doing with other things. Yeah. We need this right now. We don't. This is a wild, crazy west of bullshit out there that people have no idea. Now you're starting to finally hear people talk about, you know, mixing peptides and, oh, that's bad. Well, Jesus Christ, it's been bad forever. And talking about sourcing and all of these things that are like, why weren't those questions from the beginning when?
Yeah, kind of should have been asked a long time ago, not now all of a sudden.
Right. What's happening?
They're
Well, most
asked
of the
now
time-
after they've been injected.
Most of the time you see NAD offerings at concierge clinics or med spas, it's usually through the IV drip. You just get these
Yeah,
NAD
you get these
IV.
massive
Yeah.
dosages, which, you know, obviously you end up with adverse effects, flushing, nausea, things, because your body's not designed to absorb that much NAD in one go. So that's why obviously gentle titration programs are important.
An adjustable pen.
Yeah, there we go.
Only as much as you need.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, we could go forever with this, and we definitely should come back to this, and because I know this will be a continued.
Hopefully we get some other doctors or some of the other, but maybe even some patients on in the future to see how much it benefits them going forward.
Well, I think there's just going to be
About to
lots
knock
of.
some patients off their chairs when they hear you talking about it.
Oh my gosh, it'll be fun. It'll be fun, and I'll just say, okay, you guys. First of all, before you talk to me, you need to go back and listen to my 16 hours of this, my 14 hours of this, and then we'll talk. And then they'll come back and go, oh, okay, yeah, I get it now.
You know, most of the time when we get to this point of the episode where we're doing the sign off, we kind of just say bye to the guest. But since You're very much a nomad. Where are you going next? I'm just curious.
Next, I'm off to Vancouver. Within the business, we also have a growing medical cannabis arm of the business. So I'm off to Vancouver to go to visit some of our medicinal cannabis manufacturers. It's a very, very fast-growing market in the UK, Germany, Australia. So, yes, another string to our bow. We're bringing, sort of more alternative medicines into the sort of GMP, real pharma world.
Which is fascinating. And that actually is where you've caught my attention with some things he showed me. I was like, oh my gosh, this is just incredible.
Yeah. Doc and I will be speaking a lot going forward, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Talking of speaking real quick, I heard you say insulin. How did you say saline?
Saline?
Saline.
It's saline.
Saline, yes. Bacteriostatic saline or saline.
Are you giving him shit about his accent?
Yeah.
You gotta be nice to our guests here.
Yeah, exactly.
That, like, you were talking and I just completely, you know how when you like lose the focus?
Yeah, you focus on that one word. You can't get past it because you're like, what did he say?
I was like, saline, and then I just didn't hear the next two sentences you said. Yeah.
It's very...
Luckily, this is recorded, so you can listen to it, but watch it back.
I'll go back and listen to our own show. Yeah.
It's very well placed because then it makes you pay more attention to him.
Yeah.
Yeah, fair.
Oh.
Well, Damien, thanks for taking the time.
No, guys, pleasure. Thank you very much for having me.
It's awesome.
Yeah, this was excellent, and I know we'll have you back to talk about other things.
I'm sure we will.
This was excellent. So thanks for taking the time to be here, and sorry we didn't see you in Dubai. We did see you in
Barcelona.
Spain.
We ran into each other in Barcelona.
In Barcelona.
Oh, yeah, we did.
That's right. See, we did
run into each other.
We did cross paths here and there.
Yeah.
Right, Globetrotters.
Exactly.
Out.
Thanks for another episode here of the Redox Revolution. Matt and Maddie, thank you. Damon, thank you for being here, and we'll see you around the world in the future.
Absolutely.
Until next time.